Hey, in this video, we're going to talk about how I used ChatGPT to make a red team charter, which I'm calling a Red GPT. And during the video, we'll find out which of the two sections of the Red GPT charter need some special attention before being pushed straight into production. So, over the past week, I've had a lot of my friends message me about all the crazy stuff that they're doing on ChatGPT. I mean, they're doing everything from rewriting scripts in different languages to making raps based around cybersecurity concepts. It's actually pretty awesome to watch. I even had one friend use it to make a bunch of policy documents for ISO 27001. So it got me thinking, if they were able to use ChatGPT to generate some documentation for policies, could I maybe use ChatGPT to generate some policies for a red team? Now, before I go any further, I just want to go ahead and give a slight disclaimer that when you're using an AI, you always have to verify the information it's giving you before you use it in production. Okay, so everything you're about to see in the video and the examples that I provide at the end, keep in mind you need to verify those. Those are as is for educational purposes only, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so just verify it. Zero trust for AI. Now, what's awesome about the Red GPT charter, which is the Red Team charter from ChatGPT, is that I would honestly say it's about 80% ready to go. There are a couple things that need changed, but by and large, it is an excellent template. And it doesn't just stop for things like a Red Team charter, it could be for whatever policy documents you need. And as an operator or Red Team engineer, writing papers and policy is not something that we usually like to do. We want to get back on keyboard. Well, guess what? This gets you there faster and it makes your team legitimate. So the Red GPT charter is actually about 12 to 13 pages long, depending on the size of the fonts. And this was created just using ChatGPT. I'd asked it a bunch of questions and it gave me things. The first question I asked was actually just write a charter for an internal red team. And this is what it gave me. Now, this is a little bit different than what is actually written in the paper because this is a live example, but you can ask it additional questions like now define the rules of engagement in 5 steps that protect the business. And because it's a conversational AI, it knows what came before it and it can continue to expound upon that. So the red team's activities must be authorized by senior management, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in the Red GPT charter that I kind of scraped together, and this took about an hour and a half yesterday of just me asking detailed questions, expounding upon the questions. Okay, now take that a little bit further. What did you mean by that? Conversation. We got things for the charter, and everything in here was actually produced by ChatGPT. The only thing that was not produced by this was the disclaimer at the top and all of the things like the headers and the bolding. I did all the bolding, but it did all the formatting. So I kind of put it together so that it could be read like a charter. So you walk through what the mission is, the responsibilities, the guidance, management. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned there were 2 sections that needed some special care before we just push it right into production. And here they are. So the rules of engagement and the scope, these need to be modified because these are very important to a red team. Now, even though you still have to modify them, remember the expensive part of the creation process was done for you. The AI did that. This, editing and adding some stuff, this is easy. This is the square on the canvas. We can make pictures out of squares, easy. So you have rules of engagement, scope, methodologies are coming down here. I asked it for some methodologies for an internal red team. You can kind of figure out the questions I asked by the way that it answered them. And then I went through a little bit further and I was like, well, what about ISO 27001? And this, what's highlighted in green is actually kind of funny. I asked it for an explanation of what ISO 27001 was, and it gave me this big long thing. And I said, okay, now explain it like I'm like a toddler. And it didn't like that. It said, toddlers don't understand complex language. I can't answer that for you. So I walked the age up and eventually I got to age 4. So what's highlighted in green is this is ChatGPT explaining what ISO 27001 is to a 4-year-old. And then I went through and asked it, how would a red team, an internal red team, risk summaries or engagements that comply with ISO 27001 and gave me some examples. I asked it for top 10 ways internal red teams can validate that ISO 27001. A little bit higher up, I asked it for the top 10 riskiest applications that an internal red team can go after. And then I asked it to further risk rank those and put them in order. And what you're looking at here is the top 10 list that it put in order. It wasn't originally like this. I had to ask it to do that. So this is the top 10 list that ChatGPT thinks is the most impactful for a red team to go after. And then I wanted to see how much further I could take it. And I asked it for some attack scenarios for ERP. This is just a general attack scenario. It listed 11 things. And as you go further down in the document, you'll see that in this CRM example, I said, okay, give me the attack scenarios, but keep it to 5 total steps from start to finish. And it did that. It gave me 5 steps from start to finish, whereas before it gave me 11. And then for the examples, I asked it for additional detail. I said, give me more detail. And what's interesting is that it actually ran out of space. There was somewhere around here, towards the bottom here, it ran out of space. So it just cut off in the middle. And it did. Then I asked it to continue from where it left off, and it did. And what you see afterwards here is everything that came after. I just said, hey, please continue from where you left off. And for business intelligence, I did the same thing. Business intelligence systems. I've never attacked a BI system before, so I wanted to see what it thought I should do. And while 1 through 4 are kind of standard, what was neat was number 5 gave me some ideas that I hadn't thought of before. So in these additional examples here, I asked for greater detail, and it did. So I thought by including these in a red team charter, this would be a really good onboarding document. It tells somebody what what the red team can do, and it gives them examples of the types of attacks that it can do. Could be a good onboarding document, and also be a really good document for stakeholders too. All that's missing is a bunch of signature forms at the top. Here are some additional examples of me. And I think number 9 or 10 was like document management systems. What are some attack scenarios for an internal red team against document management systems? And it came up with these 5 things. I didn't ask it for 5 things, but those were pretty cool. And then I asked what were some additional real world threat actors that have conducted attacks like these. Please be detailed with examples. And it did. It gave me some really good examples. So we would add this to the document. And this thing is 12 pages, and with maybe another hour's worth of work, I would say it would be around 18 pages. And again, 80% ready to go. It would just take some very lightweight fine tuning. And again, the most important part is the canvas came to you already filled out. You can get straight to work, just making it what it needs to be instead of spending all that expensive, valuable resources of your time and energy trying to make this. It may take me 10 days to 2 weeks to make this thing instead of an hour and a half. All in all, I was super impressed with the capability for ChatGPT to do policy documents. I don't see a lot of people talking about them. I do plan on doing some other videos on a couple other examples that I got from ChatGPT on other red team techniques that I thought were pretty awesome. I had read somewhere that in 10 years, conversational AIs like this may actually replace Google. And based on what I was able to, the experience I was able to have with it for something boring like making a charter, yeah, I'm thinking maybe we're not that far off, to be honest. It's pretty exciting stuff. And this is even the beta version. So the beta version from now until 10 years from now, with the way the AI keeps exponentially increasing, it's really exciting, but it also makes me a little mad because I'm going to have to figure out how to do SEO optimization for a freaking AI. And I have no idea what that even looks like so that people can find my videos and articles and stuff. And speaking of that, if you would like your own copy of RedGPT, check the descriptions of this video. There is a PDF link where you can download it. I'll host that on a Google Drive. But if you would like a markdown version of this instead, you can find that also in the description below. It is linked on my Substack. You'll be able to just copy and paste all the code there. And on the Substack will be the text version of the video that you just watched. So enjoy. You can take the RedGPT if you would like, or you can just spend an hour and make your own because it's that easy. Awesome. Well, thanks for watching. And if you found this video helpful, please consider supporting the channel by hitting the thumbs up button below and subscribing. Thanks. So if you've ever written a charter before, you know that they can take quite a lot of time, but you also know how important they can be when establishing a team. What I love most about an AI is that it does all the hardest work for me. Let me go ahead and explain a little bit about what I mean hardest work, because maybe I've given you the wrong idea. Now, I consider myself at least a little bit of an artist. And as an artist, one of the hardest, most expensive things that I can do is create something. Now, I know the channel is not called Artsy Thoughts, it's called Hacker Thoughts, but this is important. The more time you spend creating something, the more of an effect it'll have in your physical life. Costs the most brain power, it costs the most time, it costs the most energy, and those things do have a physiological effect on a person's body. So instead of just talking about it, let me show you an example real quick. If I was given a blank canvas and somebody said, "Hey, I want you to create something," I would stare at the blank canvas just like I am right now. It's even titled Blank Canvas. And I could come over here to pictures. I could say, do I want to start with a picture? What kind of picture? Do I want a cartoon? Do I want a real picture? Do I want to start with a square maybe? What color of a square? Basically, I'm expending tons of energy to figure out what to create. Now, let's say that I was given a canvas and it had a picture of a square on it. Right there, the canvas is no longer blank. It has a square on it. I start thinking, what can I do with the square? Should I make the square a different color? Should I make the outside a different color? What shapes or objects can I make from the square? The most expensive part of the art has been done for me, and it was done by an AI in this example. And from this square canvas, I can construct things around it. Now, here's an example applied to the red team. Let's say you're a newly hired red team director and your CISO comes to you and says, "Hey, I want a red team, make me one." The first thing you got to do is you got to write a charter for it, because without a charter, nothing's real. The team doesn't exist. And what the red team does is more than likely going to make some people mad, and they want to know that you are authorized to do what you just did. Now, you might open up Google Docs and stare at a blank sheet of paper for about 10 minutes, and then eventually start Googling, what does a red team charter template look like? You may copy and paste some of those things in there and make your own, but all things considered, it's still going to take a lot of time to generate something from the ground up. What if something was able to give you that charter? What if I was given a canvas that already had that square on it?